You can sleep 8 hours and still wake up tired. You can take a weekend off, cancel plans, and spend an entire Sunday doing almost nothing, and somehow you still arrive at Monday feeling as if your mind never really stopped working. That is the strange part about modern exhaustion. Sometimes it is not the amount of work that wears us down. It is the fact that nothing ever seems to end. You wake up, and before your feet touch the floor, yesterday's messages are waiting for you. You eat while reading. You clean while listening to something. You answer one message while thinking about another. You finish work, but carry the conversation home in your head. There is almost no empty space between one part of life and the next. And that is where some ordinary parts of Japanese life offer an interesting clue. Not because people in Japan live without stress, they certainly do not. And not because there is some secret Japanese formula for happiness. What is interesting is smaller. Japanese culture contains visible boundaries. A boundary between outside and inside, between one action and the next, between what can be changed and what cannot, between something being useful and something needing to be perfect. And when you start noticing those boundaries, you begin to see a different way of moving through an ordinary day. So here are 8 small habits inspired by Japanese everyday life that may help your mind feel less crowded. One of them takes only 1 minute, but one of the later ideas may be much harder. It asks you to stop fixing something you've probably tried to fix for years. Let's begin before the day has even started. Imagine tomorrow morning. Your eyes open, your phone is beside the bed. Nothing dramatic has happened yet, but within seconds, your hand reaches toward the screen. Messages, news, weather, work, someone else's photograph, someone else's problem, someone else's opinion. Your body has barely woken up, but your attention already belongs to the outside world. Now imagine doing something slightly different. Before touching the phone, sit up, open the curtain, open a window if you can, drink some water, and leave 1 quiet minute between waking up and letting the world enter. There is a Japanese concept called ma. It is often translated as a gap, interval, pause, or negative space. You can see it in architecture, where empty space gives shape to what surrounds it. You can hear it in music, because without silence between notes, there is only continuous sound. You can even notice it in conversation, in the small pause that gives another person room to speak. The useful lesson is not that you need a perfectly minimalist home. It is that emptiness does not always need to be filled. For many of us, the moment a tiny gap appears, we reach for something. A phone in the elevator, a video while eating, a podcast while walking, a notification while waiting for the kettle. We have become very good at eliminating boredom, but in the process, we may also have eliminated many of the moments when the mind gets to settle. So begin with 1 minute. No meditation technique, no complicated morning routine. Just do not invite the entire world into your head the instant you wake up. A peaceful morning does not always require more time. Sometimes it requires protecting the first 60 seconds. There is also a physical version of the same idea built into almost every Japanese home. When you enter a Japanese home, you normally do not simply walk straight from the street into the living space. There is a genkan. It is the entrance area where outdoor shoes come off before you step farther inside. Historically and practically, this helps keep outside dirt away from the floors of the home. But as an image, the genkan is even more interesting. It is a threshold. Outside ends here. Inside begins there. Most of us have doors, but mentally, we often have no doorway at all. We leave work and continue answering work messages from the kitchen. We finish an argument and replay it during dinner. We come home, but some part of us remains in the traffic, the meeting, the supermarket, or the conversation that did not go well. So create your own small psychological genkan. It could be ridiculously simple. When you arrive home, put your keys in one place. Take off your shoes, change clothes, wash your hands slowly, and during those 30 seconds, do not begin the next task. Let the action mean something. I am home now. What happened outside may still matter, but it does not have to follow me into every room. You cannot always choose what enters your day, but you can sometimes choose how far you let it travel. Another useful boundary appears in something even more ordinary: putting things back. One distinctive part of Japanese school life is that students themselves often participate in cleaning classrooms, corridors, and other shared spaces. The point is not simply having children do housework. Cleaning is also treated as participation in the place everyone uses. There is an idea here that becomes surprisingly useful as we get older. Do not wait until life becomes chaotic before restoring order. Reset small things while they are still small. Look around the room where you are sitting. Maybe there is a cup from 3 hours ago, a blanket half on the sofa, mail on the table, a drawer you opened and never closed. None of those things is important, and that is exactly why they accumulate. Try a 5-minute reset at the end of the evening, not the whole house. One surface, put the cup away, fold the blanket, clear the kitchen counter, return 3 things to where they belong, then stop. The goal is not to create a beautiful home. It is to give one small part of the day a clear ending, because unfinished things have a strange way of remaining mentally present. Sometimes what we call relaxation is simply sitting down in the middle of 20 things that still look unfinished. You do not need to organize your entire life tonight. Just allow one corner of it to say, "We're done for today." There is another boundary that is almost invisible: the boundary around your attention. Think about the last cup of coffee or tea you drank. Do you actually remember drinking it? Or were you reading something, watching something, replying to someone, or walking around the kitchen at the same time? Research on task switching has repeatedly found that moving back and forth between tasks carries a cognitive cost. The individual switches may feel tiny, but a day can contain hundreds of them. Japanese tea culture offers a very different image of attention. One important expression associated with tea ceremony is ichi-go, ichi-e, one time, one meeting. The idea is that this particular encounter cannot be repeated in exactly the same way again. You do not need a tea room to practice that. Once a day, choose one ordinary activity and refuse to combine it with anything else. Drink coffee without a screen. Wash your face without listening to a video. Eat the first few bites of lunch without reading. Water a plant without carrying your phone. 5 minutes is enough. Notice something you normally miss: the temperature of the cup, the sound of water, the smell of food, the light coming through the window. We often imagine that paying attention requires effort, but divided attention may be what is exhausting us. Sometimes concentration is not about forcing your mind to work harder. It is simply about giving it fewer places to go. And once you stop feeding your attention constantly, something else becomes possible. you begin noticing the world around you again, there is a version of the same idea that happens outdoors. Walk somewhere without turning the walk into another task. In 1982, Japan's forestry agency promoted the idea of shinrin-yoku, commonly translated as forest bathing. Despite the name, there is no actual bathing involved, and it is not supposed to be a competition, workout, or test of endurance. The basic idea is to spend time among trees and experience the environment through the senses. Research on forest and nature exposure has since found associations with several measures of relaxation and stress reduction. Other research has found that walking in a natural environment can reduce rumination. That's the repetitive loop of negative thinking many of us know far too well. But here is the part I think matters most. Nature gives your attention somewhere to go without demanding a response. A tree does not need an answer. A cloud does not send another notification. A bird does not care whether you are productive. You do not need a famous Japanese forest for this. Go to a neighborhood park, walk down a quieter street with trees, sit near a garden, leave the headphones off for 10 minutes, and do not measure the walk. No calories, no step target, no educational podcast, no photograph you need to post. Just walk. For once, let an activity be valuable without proving that it was useful, because not every quiet moment needs to become another achievement. The next boundary becomes most useful when the day refuses to cooperate. The appointment is late, it rains, someone cancels, you make a mistake, the thing you ordered arrives wrong, the plan you carefully made falls apart, and then something interesting happens. The original problem may last 10 minutes, but our argument with the problem can last 3 hours. Japanese has a familiar expression, shikata ga nai. In simple terms, it means there is no way around it, or it cannot be helped. That does not mean becoming passive, and it certainly does not mean tolerating things that should be changed. The useful distinction is this: is this still a problem I can act on? Or am I now fighting the fact that it already happened? If the train is late, you can change your route. If someone misunderstood you, you can clarify. If you made a mistake, you can repair it. But once there is nothing left to do, continuing the argument inside your head does not improve the outcome. Try asking yourself, what is still mine to do? Then do that part, and let the rest stop where it happened. Acceptance is not saying something was good. Sometimes it is simply refusing to pay for the same problem twice. This next idea asks something different. Not action, but restraint. Leave one harmless imperfection alone. Japanese aesthetics has long made room for imperfection and impermanence. Wabi-sabi is often associated with finding beauty in things that are incomplete, weathered, irregular, or changed by time. And kintsugi makes the idea almost impossible to miss. A broken ceramic object can be repaired so that the fracture remains visible rather than being disguised. The history is still there. The object does not need to pretend it was never broken. Now look at how many things in ordinary life we postpone enjoying until they become better. I will invite people over when the house looks better. I will wear that when I lose a little weight. I will start when I have more confidence. I will take the photograph when everything looks right. I will relax after I finish everything, but everything has an extraordinary ability to remain unfinished. Try something uncomfortable today. Choose one harmless imperfection and do nothing about it. Let the cushions be slightly uneven. Use the old bowl. Wear the comfortable shirt. Send the message when it is good enough. Let someone see the home while it still looks lived in. This is not an argument against care. It is an argument against needing perfection before granting yourself permission to live. A peaceful life is not necessarily one in which everything has finally become perfect. It may be one in which perfection has stopped being the entrance fee. From acceptance and imperfection, the story returns to something very practical. Make tomorrow slightly easier instead of trying to become a completely different person. Kaizen is a Japanese word commonly associated with continuous, incremental improvement. It became especially well known through Japanese industry and workplace improvement. But the principle offers an interesting lesson outside factories too. When people feel overwhelmed, we often respond with a dramatic plan. New diet, new morning routine, new schedule, new storage system, new version of ourselves beginning Monday morning, and then Monday arrives. The plan is too heavy. We miss one day, and somehow one missed day becomes evidence that we failed again. Try the opposite. Do not ask, how do I fix my life? Ask, what would make tomorrow 5% easier? Put the cup beside the kettle tonight. Leave your walking shoes near the door. Charge the phone somewhere other than beside your pillow. Prepare one part of breakfast. Close one drawer. Write tomorrow's first task on a piece of paper. These actions are almost too small to feel impressive. Good. They are supposed to be. Because a calm life is rarely built during a dramatic weekend transformation. It is built through tiny reductions in friction. One less decision, one less search, one less distraction, one less unfinished thing waiting for you tomorrow. And when you look back at all these ideas, there is something unusual about them. None asks you to escape your life. You do not need to move to Japan. You do not need a minimalist house. You do not need an hour of meditation. You do not need to become a calmer person before you begin. You are simply creating boundaries where modern life tends to erase them. A minute before the phone, a threshold when you come home, a small reset at the end of the day, one activity without another activity on top of it, a walk with nothing to accomplish, a problem you stop carrying once nothing more can be done, an imperfection you allow to remain, and one tiny adjustment that makes tomorrow easier. Perhaps that is what many of us are actually missing. Not more rest, not another wellness routine, not a completely different life. Just somewhere for one moment to end before the next one begins. Tomorrow morning, before you reach for your phone, try the smallest one. Give yourself 60 quiet seconds. Do not improve them. Do not measure them. Do not post them. Just let them belong to you. And then notice whether the rest of the morning feels even slightly different. I think that may be the most interesting part. We spend so much energy seeking calm, yet rarely protect the moments when it could enter. Which of these ideas do you think your mind needs most right now? And perhaps the more interesting question is this: where in your day have you stopped leaving any space at all?